Well, good afternoon. Well, today we're going to talk about our new section at the FishyFins website. It's called DIY, Do It Yourself. As reefers, we like to build our own seascapes. We like to frag our own corals. We like to mix up our own salt. We like the moonshining method where we have control over everything. So why should we stop there? I'm an electronics enthusiast. I'm a software programmer. I'm a network engineer. I love reef tanks. And I like to bring all that skill set together to kind of enjoy the hobby by building my own stuff. So today we're going to talk about an auto top-off system for our reverse osmosis system. So we're going to use our RODI filter and we're going to plug it in through a solenoid that is powered up through a timer, which is Wi-Fi controlled. We can set up a remote to have 2 different timing sessions for it to come on twice in 24 hours for 15 minutes and put RODI fresh water into our sump and maintain our water level and fresh water in the system without having to do it ourselves or come up with some crazy expensive auto top-off system. Now, I've been running this reef tank behind me for about a year. I run RODI water directly into the sump. I do it small amounts at a time, maybe half a liter twice a day, and that's plenty to keep up on my evaporation on the water and maintain my salinity and my water level just right. My pH stays at 8.2. I maintain an outside air line going into my protein skimmer so that I don't have to worry about my pH dropping and getting too low. And on top of that, the RO water coming in is balanced. It's neutral. It's about 7. But I put such a small amount in and I span it out throughout a 24-hour period that it makes no difference in my pH system of the tank. The buffering is just wonderful in my tank. So before we get into the video that I'm showing you what I'm doing here, I want to show you the second view of the parts that we're going to use. So if you look at this, it all costs totally, let me make this a little bit smaller. That's a little bit too small. Make that a little bit bigger. We're looking at maybe about $100 in parts to do this. And we have first a Y splitter, a 2-way splitter that comes off our faucet outside, our spigot. Out of that splitter, we're going to connect one of these bibs. I have 2 of them in the kit that's included in the description below. One of them fits a hose, a coarse thread for a hose, an outside garden hose. The other one will fit the fine threads on a sink or maybe a bathroom sink, a garage utility sink. So it's easy, no matter what option you need, you'll have it if you order that kit. The next thing that we have here, and I want to point this out, this is irrigation drip line. This is really designed to be used outside. So if you're running your water line either outside the house and then in through a wall or coming through your attic down a wall, it's better to use a more industrial grade water line so you don't have to worry about the UV of the sun, you don't have to worry about stuff breaking down, chemicals, sprays, stuff like that, eating through the water line. Next thing we added here was just a crimping set of pliers along with some push-on connectors that are going to be used with a solenoid. We're going to talk about that in just a second. We have 2 conductor wire to course plug our solenoid into our power supply. We have a Wi-Fi controlled, an app that controls these outlets so that we can set up a timer to come on and turn our solenoid on and off so that we can have different times throughout 24 hours a day that the RO water is going into the auto top-off to top off our sump. We have the small transformer that's going to power up our solenoid. It's a 12-volt transformer that only needs to be about a half an amp, not even, actually about a quarter of an amp. In with this comes an Anderson connector, this little connector on the bottom right side here, which adapts this 3.5 millimeter adapter that comes off of the transformer into a 2-wire Anderson connector that allows us to connect this 2-wire wire with a couple of little screws. Plugs in, you tighten them up with a couple of screws, and then we can put these wire ends on the other end and plug them directly into our solenoid down here. That's going to turn our water on and off a couple of times a day. We have an RODI filter system. If you don't already have one, there's one in the link below that you can pick up for about 50 or 60 bucks. It's a 4-stage RODI, and on my tank, one of these lasts me about a year before I have to change the filters, which is pretty good on coming off city water. Next, we have our RODI water line that we use inside. So once we bring this irrigation outside line into the house, then we go to the RODI water line, which is a little bit softer, easier to use, and cuts easy. And I use different colors so I know what they're really running when I'm looking at a harness of a couple of different lines. Last but not least, we have a float valve. Now the float valve kit comes with a mount kit to put it in your sump. It includes the float valve, and the float valve is going to be our fail-safe. So just in case our solenoid comes on and we don't really need any more water in the sump, the float valve is going to stay closed, and no matter how long the solenoid stays on, no water is going to go into the sump. So that's wonderful to have. All these parts are right here. So minus the RODI filter, it's about $100 in parts, free shipping. I did check locally. If you go to Lowe's, if you go to Home Depot, you go to Ace Hardware, you try to buy this stuff individually, it's going to cost you about $230. I couldn't believe it, but these connectors alone, which you could buy for about $4 in the link below, cost $25 at the local hardware store. So there is a difference in price. But for now, let me go ahead and turn this off and put our tank display on. We'll turn a second display off. But I want to show you this video that I did. And this is what I set up at my place here. This is right outside my office. And I came from the side of the house and I ran about maybe 30 foot of irrigation line to my office through the wall, into the solenoid, from the solenoid into the RODI system, out of the RODI system into my sump with a T-splitter on it so that I could come out of the top of that RODI feed line and have RODI access water right on my desktop next to the tank. So if I'm mixing up salt, I have that line right there. I can just go up my app, tap my app to turn the solenoid on, and water starts flowing into my water container so I can mix up salt or use RODI water for whatever. Maybe I'm dipping corals, whatever it is. It's nice to have it right there, right next to your tank, ready to go anytime you need it. Now, I connected the splitter right here to the spigot. I connected the 1/4 inch, of course, bit that you saw going into the black irrigation line. The irrigation line runs down the side of the house. It runs through this front break wall. Had to drill all this out, no big deal. You may not have to do this. You can go up through your attic or come from your garage. I came out to a 90-degree splitter in the front and then ran my cable the whole length of the wall here. It's my water line. And forgive the mess, we just came through a hurricane, so things are still a little messed up. And once I got to the wall, I put, of course, one of those coaxial plastic compression plugs in there where you could run the coaxial cable. I just ran my irrigation line through that, shoved it in the wall, and I glued it in place so no bugs, no water, or anything could get in there from the rain. And it worked out really nice, very well sealed. Now, when you go inside, you can see where that same line comes out inside right next to the sump. Now, as soon as I came in, I put a quick connect on it, and I ran it from the black irrigation water line to the RODI PVC plastic that's clear. So I'm able to see what's going on, and of course I have my water lines inside colored so I know what's going on when I'm looking at the water lines and what does what. Now, from this section, I come across my sump. Please forgive the mess. I know it needs to be cleaned. I go through the wall here, it's separated, comes out the top, and there's my line. So that clear line at the very top is going right now to the solenoid I'm going to show you in just a second. Now below this is the RODI filter system. I mounted it here because it was just convenient. I have a water chiller down there and I didn't want the exhaust to blow on it on the other side and warm up the RODI filter. So I left it here so it stays cool and out of the way of that exhaust. However, the water line coming in, the supply water line, goes first to the solenoid and not to the RODI filter. Remember that. Your water supply line goes to the solenoid first and not to the RODI filter. So there it is up there. You can see the solenoid. Give me a second to get in there a little better. I got a lot of stuff down here. And let's get, there it is. There's the solenoid. So you see it's coming in from the right. It's going out through the left. And on these solenoids, make sure you check there's an arrow showing you the direction of water flow. So make sure you have that direction of flow correct when you plug it all in. It comes out of the solenoid and goes back down, as you can see here. It just looped down through a 90-degree back into the RODI system below. See, and there's my 90-degree, and I just take it right down, and I go into the input of the RODI. Now remember, on your RODI system, you have an exhaust. You have a dirty water line. That's that red line you see. So I then took my red line from the RODI system. I went through the wall and back outside so that I could go ahead and expel the dirty water from the RODI, and I run it into my garden. So none of the water gets wasted. It's all used, and you want to do the right thing, so we use everything. Now that top line, the white line you see, that's an air intake line that I use for my protein skimmer. That comes from outside, and by using outside air in the protein skimmer, it helps keep that pH pretty high. So my pH runs about 8.2, even with a direct auto top off from the RODI system. I don't treat the water. It comes right out of the RODI into the sump, and my water pH stays at 8.2 with that protein skimmer sucking in air from outside. Keeps the pH up. My buffering is just wonderful. I should say buffing is just wonderful. So no problems there. Now, when we come back, we'll see that the RODI output, the clean water, comes out of the RODI system and it goes down into my sump into the float valve that we just talked about. Now, the float valve is my secondary fail-safe. So just in case the solenoid gets stuck and water gets through there, I have a float valve that will cut off the water coming into the sump to prevent it from overflowing. So I like that system. It's never failed me, and I have no worries. So we go right in through there, and there's my water line going in. I use a black feed water line, and it keeps my sump at perfect level for my protein skimmer. When we go outside, you can see there's my air intake on the top. That little canister is a little filter I put in there to keep bugs from going into my protein skimmer's air intake line, and also to keep wasps from building nests in it or anything like that. Works out really nice, and it keeps that fresh air going into the skimmer, keeps that pH about 8.2. The bottom line you see is the exhaust dirty water line coming out of my RODI filter going to the garden in the front, so we don't waste any water. So that works out really well. So this system is really nice. I think you'll enjoy it. Oh, really quick, I wanted to show you this. This is where I took that T coming just before my RODI goes to the float valve into the sump. I put a T in there. So I come out of the top of the T, I come to the top of my desktop where I'm working, my workbench where the tank is, and I put a cutoff valve on that. So anytime I want to, I could go ahead and open up that RODI filter with the solenoid, and that's connected through an app that controls the outlet. We're going to show you that in just a second, so that I could turn it on and off anytime I want to and get RODI water inside of a bucket to mix up salt or maybe for frag dipping, something like that. But it's nice to have a supply of RODI water right there at your workstation so that you don't have to run around and get water from the kitchen or the bathroom or the garage. It's all right there, easy to use. So I keep that on the top, and if I ever need to, I can just take that in. I have these little clips that clip it onto my 5-gallon bucket so it doesn't fall on the floor, and I can fill up my buckets with that anytime I need to. So it's a real nice system. I enjoy it very much. And what I'm going to do is, let me bring up this second display again, and we're going to switch over to our how-to. And let me turn this off, tank view, second display, there you go. And I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so you can see it better. There you go. Okay, so we're going to walk through this part and exactly step by step how we put it together. Very simple. It might take you 20 minutes to do once you have everything laid out and ready to go. So the first thing we do, of course, is we plug our Y, our two-way splitter. We screw it into our spigot outside, and then we take our bib, our 1/4-inch bib adapter. Now, if you're coming from the spigot, you would use the hose threaded adapter. If you're coming from one of your sinks, then you would use the fine threaded sink adapter. There's 2 adapters that come in the kit. One's for a hose, one's for a sink or a spigot like that. Makes it a lot easier than running around trying to find them. Just a heads up, those 2 adapters here locally cost $25 to get them. The one that is in the links below, I think it costs $9 for the pair. Same thing with the Y adapter. Here locally, it was $18, and that link below is $9. Also, we're going to have number 3. So we have our spigot with our splitter. We have our bib right now screwed on there. We're going to take number 3, our irrigation, the black irrigation drip line. We're going to plug it into the bib in our spigot out here, and then we're going to run it along wherever the length is to get it to where the RODI system is going to be inside of the house. Now, once we run this line into where the RODI system is going to be, we're going to go ahead and mount our solenoid, and that's what this is. This is our solenoid valve to turn the water on and off going into the RODI filter. We're going to plug that into there, and we're going to double check and make sure that the flow direction of the incoming water is correct by the arrow on the bottom of the RODI valve switch. Now, once we have this connected, we're going to come out the outside of this one, right? This is our solenoid, and we're going to plug, again, our irrigation line. Once we're in here, we can use this blue line now. This is the blue line is actually RODI inside water line, and we use it really for refrigerators, for ice makers, stuff like that. It can be used inside. It cannot be used outside because the UV of the sun will break it down and it'll crack, it'll leak. You'll have a lot of problems, but you can use this inside. So we're going to take our RODI line, the blue line here, we're going to plug it into the output of the RODI system, and then we're going to run that to where our sump is and where we're going to actually install the float valve. So don't forget, at this point in time, you have to have an exhaust for your RODI system. In my case, I use that red water line to run it outside and into my garden. So make sure you run that exhaust line out, and make sure you put this solenoid in line from the water supply to the RODI system. Don't put it between the RODI system's output and the float valve. If you do that and you turn your water pressure on, that exhaust, the dirty water, will keep flowing and never stop, and you'll waste a ton of water if you do that. So you want it definitely going into the water supply, going into your solenoid. So now, once you come out of here, right, you come out of your RODI system, you're using, of course, these blue lines, then you're going to plug it into your float valve. Now, the float valve mounts very easily inside of your sump. There's a kit that lets you mount it to the sump and also to adjust the level of where that float's going to be. So adjust your level on the float valve to wherever your protein skimmer needs to be or whatever you prefer it, and plug it in. So once you have it plugged in, what I did on mine was right between the RODI filter and the float valve, I put a T that comes with this kit. So the T lets me go ahead and plug another line in to come to the top like you saw and use that as an RODI water supply line to mix up my salt and whatever I need to use in my workspace. Makes it a lot easier. So at this point in time, our plumbing is done. And it's that easy. We have our splitter coming from the spigot. We have our bib adapting it to the 1/4 inch. We have our 1/4 inch irrigation line running outside into the house and plugging into our solenoid. We have our solenoid, the output coming from the solenoid plugging into the RODI filter system using our RODI blue line. Then we're coming out of the RODI filter with our blue line and going right into our float valve. And if we want to have that top line in our workspace, we're going to plug that T in between the RODI system and the float valve, and we're going to bring a line up top and then put a regular cutoff valve that also comes with this kit here on the top, so we can turn that off when it's not being used, turn it on when we need some RODI water in our workspace. The plumbing's done. That's how easy it is. Now we're going to hook up our solenoid to the power supply and to our wireless, our Wi-Fi timer. Great stuff. So we're going to go ahead and come down here. We're going to figure out where our transformer needs to be. Our solenoid's already mounted, so we're going to go ahead and take our 2-conductor wire. We're going to strip 2 ends of it with our wire strippers. We're going to crimp it onto these 1/4 inch slip-on connectors, and we're going to plug it into our solenoid. There's 2 connecting for those slip-ons to slide right on for the electronic connection to it. Then we're going to take our 2-conductor wire. We're going to pull enough out so that it could reach where the transformer is. And we're going to go down here. You see this little adapter on the far right side. These come with this adapter, these little small adapters, and it allows you to connect this 3.5 millimeter standard adapter in to any size that you need here. Now we're going to use the one on the far right. That's called an Anderson connector. And what that does is it allows us to adapt that 3.5 plug on our power adapter to a 2-wire receiver with little screws on it, so we can tighten up that 2-conductor wire and use it inside of the adapter without cutting wires and taping and using wire nuts. It's a nice, neat, easy way to do it. And we like nice, and we like neat, and we like easy especially. So we're going to do that. We're going to get these connected. We're going to use our 2-conductor wire. We're going to use the Anderson connector. We're going to connect it all together. And then we're going to plug our adapter into our wireless Wi-Fi timer controllers. These are great to have, number 10 here. These do a great job of letting you use your phone, your iPad, your iPhone, your Android, whatever you're using to connect with the app, name that specifically your RODI switch, and then go in and schedule how many times a day and for how long you want that switch to open to put water into your sump. Of course, you have the float valve as a fail-safe, so you'll never overflow the sump. So once you have all this connected, all you have to do is plug your outlet into your Wi-Fi timer, go into the app, turn it on, make sure that opens and closes, so you hear it click, click when it opens and closes. Well, now you're pretty much ready. I would open it at this point in time, Go outside, turn on the water valve on your splitter, make sure your hose side is off, your water valve side is on, and go back inside and check and see the water flow. And you're going to see that the water is flowing into your float valve, and as soon as the float valve lifts up and closes, no more water could come in. So what I did with mine is I set mine for my timer to come on twice in a 24-hour period. So it'll put probably maybe a half a liter, not even a quarter of a liter, and then 12 hours later another quarter of a liter, and it keeps that, whatever is evaporating, it keeps my water level exactly where it needs to be in the sump. No worries, no hassles. I don't have to worry about cleaning water, cleaning buckets, setting up kalkwasser, any of that, because I'm using my airline coming from outside. I'm keeping that pH high, nice, about 8.2, comes even a little bit higher sometimes, 8.3. And more than anything, I took the back-breaking work out of doing water top-offs and the aggravation, spending all kinds of money for a top-off system that usually fails, and they've got to be readjusted, and simple and easy. Never had a problem with it. So just a heads up on that. Do I have the price list here? I think I do. Let me go back to that. So again, you're looking at about $100. That's for all of these parts. And if you don't need the crimper, that's going to save you money. If you don't need the wire ends, that's going to save you money. If you don't need the wire itself, that'll save you money. You probably have all this stuff laying around your house. You may already have the irrigation lines. You may already have the RODI system. Maybe all you need is a solenoid, the wireless adapters, and the adapter itself that powers the solenoid. And you're ready to go. So this is a nice, easy way to do it. Again, you know, if you like to do it yourself and you really want to enjoy the hobby and have that satisfaction of knowing that you built it, you engineered it, and it's keeping your reef tank flowing beautifully, that's the way to do it. Again, this is our first part of quite a few do-it-yourself DIY sections of FishyFins. Go down to the comments below and you'll see that in our description. You can click on all of these links and buy all this stuff directly, put it all together very easily, and learn to do it yourself in your own reef tank. So again, thank you for watching. Keep tuning in to FishyFins. We got a lot more stuff coming up, and we'll see you in your reef tanks. Have a great day.